Okay, let's talk about Greenland. It's this vast, ice-covered island, the biggest in the world, but with a population of just 57,000 people. So you gotta ask, why has it suddenly become this hotbed of global competition? Well, it all kicked off with one very direct, very American statement. Yeah, that quote from Donald Trump, it wasn't just some casual throwaway line. This was a clear signal. It took what seemed like a bizarre idea and turned it into a serious foreign policy goal. So what is really going on here? What's behind this urgent push for Greenland? So, is this whole thing just a giant real estate play, like some people have said? Or are we watching the opening moves of a much bigger, high stakes game for control of the entire Arctic? All right, let's peel back the layers on this thing, starting with the person who put it back on the world stage. To really get what's happening now, you have to look at how this whole thing got started again. And believe it or not, this geopolitical drama didn't kick off in some high-tech situation room, but in a chat between a couple of old friends. So the story goes, the idea was first pitched to President Trump by his old college buddy, Ronald Lauder. Yeah, the Estee Lauder cosmetics billionaire. He basically looked at a map and thought like a real estate developer, reportedly saying something like, I look at a corner, I say, I've got to get that store. But here's the thing. This isn't just about one guy's idea. The American interest in Greenland goes way, way deeper than that. Right, so while the whole buying Greenland thing sounds kind of wild and new, America's strategic interest in the island? Oh, that's not new at all. Not by a long shot. This story is all about military position and geopolitical chess moves. I mean, just look at this history. We're talking decades. The US set up a super important air base there way back in World War II. And get this, right after the war, in '46, President Truman secretly tried to buy it. He offered $100 million, which is over $1 billion in today's money. And Denmark said, nope. You starting to see a pattern here? And that base they built all those years ago, it's still there. It's now called Pituffik Space Base, and it's absolutely critical. It's the US military's northernmost outpost, basically a giant early warning system, a watchtower on top of the world. And what's wild is that this old Cold War spot is suddenly more important than ever. So why is it more important? Well, in a word, climate change. The ice is melting, and that's opening up brand new shipping routes. We're talking about the famous Northwest Passage, a shortcut that could shave thousands of kilometers off the trip from Asia to Europe. And suddenly, everybody wants a piece of the action. You've got Russia building up its military there, and you've got China. They're calling themselves a near-Arctic state and planning a polar Silk Road. In this new reality, if you control Greenland, you control a major global choke point. But okay, it's not just about military bases and shipping lanes. There's something else. A huge, tangible prize that the melting ice is starting to reveal. A literal buried treasure. Okay, get ready for this number. $4.4 trillion. That's with a T. That's the estimated value of all the minerals and energy, oil, gas, rare earths, that might be under all that ice. It's an absolutely mind-boggling number. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. Because, just because it's there doesn't mean you can actually get to it and make money. So of that giant 4.4 trillion, the amount they think is actually possible to mine right now is much smaller. Still, it's $186 billion. Not exactly chump change, right? But actually getting it out of the ground is a whole other story. So what really makes these deposits special is the quality. See this term ore grade? That's just a fancy way of saying how much good stuff is packed into the rock. And if you look at Greenland's Kafanafeld deposit, okay, it's not number one in the world, but that 1.43%, that's a really, really good concentration. It blows a lot of other projects right out of the water. And these two spots right here, Kavanafeld and Tonbreeze, they're the real crown jewels. We're talking about some of the biggest deposits of rare earth elements on the entire planet. And you need those for everything, your phone, your laptop, even fighter jets. For a country like the US, this is huge because it's a potential alternative to getting these critical minerals from China, which pretty much runs the market right now. Okay, so we've talked about real estate, military power, trillions of dollars. But in all this big geopolitical talk, it's so easy to forget the single most important piece of the puzzle: the people. The 57,000 people who call Greenland home. So what do they think about all this? Well, the numbers speak for themselves, and they are not subtle. A full 85% of Greenlanders are against becoming part of the US. Only 6% are for it. I mean, it's not even a conversation for them. It's a hard no. And their Prime Minister, Mute Egede, said it perfectly. He's basically saying, hey, we're not a piece of property you can just buy and sell. They're a people with their own culture, and they want to decide their own future. And you know what? They've got the law on their side. Yeah, this isn't just an opinion. It's actually baked into international law. There's this thing called the 2009 Act on Self-Government, and it officially recognizes Greenlanders as a people who have the right to self-determination. That means legally, they and only they get to decide what happens to their country. But then you hear something like this from an American politician, a call to bring back the spirit of manifest destiny. You know, that 19th century idea that America had a God-given right to just expand. The difference between that kind of thinking and Greenland's right to choose for itself, man, it is night and day. And don't think for a second they aren't using that power. Just look at their 2021 election. Everyone called it the mining election. The party that won did so by promising to protect the environment. And what's the first thing they did? They banned uranium mining. Just like that. They slammed the brakes on that massive Kvanefjeld project we were just talking about. It's a perfect example of local democracy flexing its muscles against huge international pressure. So, when you put all of this together, the history, the military angle, the mind-boggling amount of money, and most importantly, the people, you start to see this incredibly complicated picture taking shape. A whole new game is starting in the Arctic. And Greenland is right in the middle of a perfect storm. It's getting pulled in every direction. You've got the US and China in a geopolitical tug-of-war. Internally, they're debating if they should use mining money to become independent. Then there's the climate change paradox. The very thing that could make them rich is also threatening their entire way of life. And all of this is happening on an island 3 times the size of Texas with, get this, only 93 miles of road. Talk about a balancing act. There are no easy answers here. Which brings us to the big final question. And this isn't just about Greenland, it's for the whole Arctic. As that ice continues to melt, who gets to write the next chapter? Is it going to be the people who have lived there for centuries? Or is this new frontier just going to become another chessboard for the world's superpowers fighting over the spoils of a warming planet?